please. The date today is May 12, 2014. The time is 5:30 p.m. This is the meeting of the Paris City Council. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I would like to ask Pastor Durer to lead us in the invocation, followed by Dr. Grossnickel in the Pledge of Allegiance. If I can ask everyone to please stand.
Gracious God, we gather this evening and ask for your blessings upon the leadership in our community, and we pray that you will be with them as they meet this evening, that you'll give them wisdom as they make decisions. We pray that you'll continue to give them a good spirit of unity and concord as they work together to further enhance the quality of life in our fair city. All these things we pray in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. The Texas Open Meetings Act. Thank you. The Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the council, council members, city, or employees, as well as individual personnel appeals, are not appropriate for the Citizens Forum. The Citizens Forum is now open. If you want to address, please come forward. Write your name and address for the record. If there is nobody wanting to address the Citizens Forum, we are going to move to the next item. The next item is the proclamations. The first proclamation is recognizing Tanner Napier's personal and outstanding achievements as a golfer. Whereas Tanner Napier is a member of the Randall Lewis golf team at Paris High, and from the fall season of 2012 to present, he has won 8 individual medals in events, including district and regional champions. He competed for station champion and tied for first place, coming in second in state after a playoff. Whereas Tanner is now ranked as the #1 player in the state of Texas for 3 AAAs on the high school golf scoreboard. Now therefore, I, AJ Hashmi, Mayor of the City of Paris, Texas, by the authority vested in me, do hereby, on behalf of the citizens of Paris, Texas, extend congratulations and best wishes to you, Tanner Napier, for exceeding the standards with hard work and dedication. If I can please ask you to come forward. And Mr. Lewis, I think I saw you. Why don't you come also? The next proclamation is proclamation declaring the week of May 6th as the National Nurses Week. Whereas the depth and breadth for the registered nurses profession meet the different and emerging healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings. And whereas the American Nurses Association, as the voice of registered nurses for this country, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing delivery of primary and preventive health care. Now therefore, I, AJ Hashmi, Mayor of the City of Paris, Texas, by the authority vested in me, do hereby, on behalf of the citizens of Paris, Texas, along with the American Nurses Association, declare the week of May 6th through 12th as the National Nurses Week. I'm going to do the next proclamation with this. The second is proclamation declaring the week of May 11th, 2014 as the Nursing Home Week. Whereas our valued citizens of Paris, Texas, staying in skilled nursing centers have made important contributions to the success and growth of our community, and whereas care centers, residents, and patients of any age or ability are themselves living history and a precious resource. Whereas we are committed to improving programs that assist older Americans and people with disabilities in achieving their goals and showing older adults and persons with disability patience, kindness, respect, and compassion. Now therefore, I, A.J. Hashmi, Mayor of the City of Paris, Texas, by the authority vested in me, do hereby on behalf of the citizens of Paris, Texas, declare the week of May 11 through 17 as the National Nursing Home Week. Ms. Walsworth, if you are here, if you can, Mr. Walsworth, sorry, if you can please come forward. The next proclamation is proclamation declaring the month of May as the Motorcycle Awareness Month. Whereas safety is among the highest priorities of the highway and streets of our city and state, and the great state of Texas is proud to be a national leader in motorcycle safety, education, and awareness. Whereas it is especially important that the citizens of our city and state be aware of motorcycles on the streets and highway and recognize the importance of motorcycle safety, whereas all motorcyclists should join Paris Gypsy MC in actively promoting motorcycle safety, education, and awareness to the citizens of our city and state. Now therefore, I, A.J. Hashmi, Mayor of the City of Paris, Texas, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim the month of May as the Motorcycle Awareness Month. Mr. Morlock? No, sure. The next proclamation is proclamation declaring the month of May 2014 as Preservation Month, where historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, for the Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. Whereas the new age of preservations embark, inspire, engage in the theme for National Preservation Month, co-sponsored by the Paris Main Street. Now therefore, I, A.J. Hashmi, Mayor of the City of Paris, Texas, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim the month of May as Preservation Month. Ms. Bedford? Mr. Charles needs a new, faster camera. All right. The Citizens Forum, as I said, was open. The proclamations are done. I do have one little quick statement that I want to make before we go further, and that is, we had a great election. I want to congratulate all of those who were successful, and I want to appreciate the services of all of those who did not succeed in the election. But the beauty of living in America is that we have choices, and I think that is great for all of us. I also want to thank everyone for helping me throughout my mayorship. Next week, my mayorship is coming to an end. I've had a very successful time, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. And I'm here to assist whoever the next mayor is in every way or form. So with that said, we will move to the next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. Do any of the council members have any questions on the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull out number 8 for discussion and separate vote.
Okay. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right. With that taken out, anybody else has any other questions on the consent agenda? No. All right, Mr. Wright.
I'd like to know the reason for pulling that out of the floodplain and whether it's been consistent with the past decisions made in that regard.
In reference to the floodplain
Yep.
itself, there's been a lot of change with the floodplains here recently, starting off with the David Robinson property in the northeast loop between the hotels, like next to La Quinta, in that FEMA is actually allowing me as the floodplain administrator to prove the preliminary work on the site, and then after the site work is completed, applying for a letter of map revision directly to FEMA. So it speeds up the process and helps us get development in much faster than before. And we've been in discussions with the Denton, which is a Region 6 office of FEMA, about this process, because I was a little bit leery about doing that myself. We've been looking at these, or I've been looking at these for a number of years, but actually getting to approve them in-house is quite different than what was customary that we've seen in the past. I know when I worked for the City of Garland, this is not customary at all. But apparently they're trying to speed up the development process as well through FEMA or through the federal government, which is kind of strange, but we'll take whatever we can get to help development in this area.
Didn't we refuse to do a deal for Guarantee Bank on a sign?
Well, that was in the floodway, and that was really having to do with the sign ordinance, and there were a lot more issues than just the floodway in that particular case. But they are also applying for a flood study right now for their second lot as a whole, which will hopefully clear up some of those other issues, not only to mention with a sign ordinance, but with actually building on that lot or building a building on that lot.
So you have the authority to designate whether something's in the floodplain or whether it is?
No, sir, they still have to do a so-called flood study to determine what's in or what's out based on what is there currently and then what they propose to do. So as they propose to build up the lot, they can't raise the floodplain elevation above what it is now. So basically what they're doing is going in, cutting and balancing what they're cutting out and filling, or creating more volume into the floodplain, if that makes sense to you. So the floodplain level is either staying the same or dropping. That's what we're hoping to achieve with all these developments in or near the floodplain.
Ms. Drake.
No, that answered my questions that I had about it, because I know there had been some things out there before that we weren't able to do. And you're saying that that was because of the sign ordinance that we weren't able to do for Guarantee Bank?
Well, that was a sign ordinance at the time. Plus
At the time.
But there were numerous other issues with it. There were like 7 or 8 reasons why they couldn't do that before. And that had to do with the old sign ordinance, which we currently revised and made it a little bit easier for billboards to go in or be relocated.
Mr. Frierson.
No questions for me.
Dr. Grossnickel.
No questions.
Ms. Lancaster.
How much of this property is in the floodplain and how much of it is in the floodway?
With what's on the actual final plat, I'm not sure there's any in the floodway. I think there's 0 in the floodway with these 3 lots we're looking at in particular. However, a large majority is in the floodplain. I would say probably 75–80% currently is actually in the floodplain, not the floodway.
During this recent rain, did anyone go out and check this property?
Actually, Mr. Sleeper actually went out and took pictures, and it was surprisingly low. We had a lot higher rains in other areas of town, which don't even appear on the floodplain map. So we did actually go out and look at those areas.
Well, I went out there too. And I did see more water than I was comfortable with.
Down near the creek?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. But,
Had it rained more, I think we would have seen a lot more.
mhm.
Mr. Jenkins?
I have no questions.
Mr. Wright, anything else?
No.
Um, I actually have two questions. Supposing you do it and the FEMA decides that it doesn't want it done, then what happens?
I think the point where we'd be getting to with FEMA would be they would typically come back and ask more questions or ask for more information. Then they actually have final say-so in this. But the process we're following is their process
Okay.
for determining new floodplain. So to answer your question, we don't know the answer to what they may give us or tell us to do.
Okay.
But we're abiding by their rules through the process to hopefully accomplish that.
And they require council approval prior to them seeing
No,
it?
this is just for the plat itself. This has to do with establishing the lots, the buildable lots in this case. In this particular instance, I know this is lot 2 in the middle of this tract is where the new Ford dealership is looking at constructing a building. And in this particular case, we're actually looking at the elevations that they've provided to us will meet the current floodplain ordinance without revising the floodplain as well. So they are proposing to build this building high enough to meet the current floodplain standards, even if FEMA does not approve their letter of map revision submittal, which is not always going to be the case. This is kind of a good problem to have in that they can actually build it high enough. Part of the property is currently out of the floodplain, and then where they want to build their main building would take just a little bit of field to accomplish that task.
Yes,
I have
Mr.
one
Wright.
other question. Would the city have any liability there in the event of anything happening and FEMA disapproving it?
No, they're still proceeding at their own risk in this case, because they are proceeding with that. And I know we have not sent them any approval letters. It's really going to hinge on approving the final plat tonight as one of those items to kind of check off the list. But having an approved FEMA map is a different story, because you do have to follow their process to submit a letter of map amendment to actually amend the floodplain maps in the future to show this area being taken out of the floodplain. And normally what happens to FEMA, when you send a document in, they have 90 days to respond. And that 89th day, they may send you a letter back saying, we have received your report and we'll start studying it. Not that they give you any comments or approve it, but they have up to 90 days just to send you that first letter. So that being initial time frame, you can see where that would obviously slow developers down significantly in a lot of areas. So I think FEMA's tried to take that into account to help developers improve the process and speed everything up by letting the local floodplain administrator review and approve the preliminary part of the study.
Is this a first in that regard?
No, we've been looking at, there's actually.
Where else have we done it?
The David Robinson tract next to La Quinta, and also the Guarantee Bond Bank. I just received their information this last week as well, so actually we're reviewing 3 right now.
So, Sean, you don't think this is an atypical request?
Well, it's atypical in the fact of what FEMA is now allowing, but
Right.
it's
But
a
I'm
good
saying
thing what they're
as-
allowing.
Right, and the flexibility, but, I mean, as far as something being out of the ordinary is people playing within the parameters that are set, is this anything that should raise any flags?
Not that I see, no, sir.
Okay. I was just curious, if they're allowing more flexibility for property owners, if somebody's trying to do that, I was just curious if that
And
is not the norm.
back up a little bit too. And one thing, when FEMA last came into town in 2011 and did our new map, so to speak, they did a map modification. They did not go out and take cross sections to determine where the floodplain was. They modified the maps to show basically the new aerials behind it. They took that into consideration. We knew, looking at that at the time, we circled a lot of areas when we got the new floodplain maps and said, this is wrong. This is clearly wrong.
Right.
You have actually put people in the floodplain map in the floodplain who were out before.
Right.
And they actually had a letter from you saying that.
Yeah.
So we took that, gave that back to them, told them, will you please reconsider this? And we're yet to hear anything from them. But one thing that was done, and I'll pass this around to you guys, this is actually done by an engineer that went in and looked at the current, not anything new, but he looked at the current lay of the land, took cross sections, and based on his floodplain study, he has determined that a great amount of property can be taken out of the floodplain with just existing conditions without adding or taking away anything. And I'll pass this around for you guys to look at. On here, the yellow on the outside limits is a floodplain as it currently is shown. The red is a floodplain when he ran the models just with what's existing out there.
Sean, I want to ask you one other thing. Is it possible to let it go to FEMA first and let them decide before we approve it? I mean,
Can I ask a question? There seems to be some consternation here on this, and if Sean's obviously our city administrator.
it's my opinion, Mr. Frierson. I'm just asking a simple question.
Well, I'm just
Can you
talking
finish
about-
answering the question?
I'm just talking about down the road. It just seems
Okay.
like there's some,
Well, there's obviously a concern because if the federal government has set floodplains,
but then they're
are we
also,
authorized to change the floodplains?
but then they're also allowing the ability to have an exception.
And that is fine. And you can exercise that right to exercise. Maybe I don't want to exercise that right.
I'm just asking if there's any.
And that's what I'm trying to answer. Sean, would you answer my question, please?
You could, actually, when we called the gentleman at the FEMA Denton office, they almost made it sound like they prefer we approve it in-house in a lot of other cities because that takes it off their plate of things to review. As you can imagine, the gentleman I talked to actually was having to travel out to different areas where flooding was going on. I think FEMA has cut short on their staff, so he made it sound like to me they were almost wanting us to approve this in-house. And that's what I was getting from him to answer your question, Dr. Osmond.
Okay.
Not that you can or can't, you can always submit it in. If anyone so chose, you could, but they allowed us to do that in-house. I'll pass around. I found another one too.
Thank you. Personally, this is just my feeling, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but if it can be approved by FEMA first, then why should it not be approved by FEMA first, then us? But again, this is just my opinion. The council can take action whichever which they want to. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Sean,
Yes, ma'am.
when I was at planning and zoning, you had some overheads that showed that floodway and floodplain. Is that available?
Yes. This is the particular area we're looking at. So you can see the loop here. You can see where spur 139 comes out. The bank is looking at building, if you, well,
Sean, can you move the
I'll
little
try to.
mouse and just point out as you go?
Right here is the former car dealership that is now gone from the lot. And this approximate location where the crossover is at the loop, that's one location they're proposing to keep the crossover and build like an access driveway on the inside and then build the well, it's actually on your map, it's actually shown by a little orange area. Did find a few more. You guys need some?
You gotta get it
That's
in my
that,
mind.
everything's.
The orange area is
Okay, I just
proposed
gotta
for.
get it in my mind.
Oh, okay, thank you. Here, yeah, right there. And how does that correspond to there?
The mouse went.
Well, it's, there's a
Let
lot
me
of
pull up one other
floodplain
map
there,
here.
but it didn't all there. Well, there had been, hadn't there been a building there? It just showed it.
I think the one Ms. Lancaster is referring to is probably on our website. You can go to our floodplain maps by going to, under departments under engineering planning and development. FEMA flood maps are on their page. May take a little while to load. The area we're talking about is up in the top center here. And I'll try to zoom in on it.
There, okay, yeah.
Here we go. All right. As you can kind of see here, this is a base flood model of the 100-year floodplain, and you can see the numbers here that are, you see like a 520, 524, 526. What those numbers are elevations of the 100-year floodplain. And the area we're looking at and talking to the Ford leadership, they're actually looking at building their buildings like to an elevation of 525, give or take, about where the 524 is. So you see that would automatically build that building up above the floodplain level. And that's one of the things they're looking at based on this map. But just to give you a relation, you can see where Spur 139, where it comes across, where that line comes across, which you can see on your aerial that you have there, that's about where the floodplain line is.
Okay.
So Sean, this 526 is higher than 545?
No.
No, what I was saying is where they're looking at building the building, they're looking at building about an elevation of 525, but it's about where the 524 is, so it would be a foot higher than the floodplain.
What's that gonna do to the stuff around it? That's out there,
Displacement.
behind it, like the 520, 514, is water gonna run back down toward them?
No, it actually, from, like I say, from what's actually there, this is one of those areas where looking at what the floodplain maps show versus what water is actually being carried here, I think the floodplain maps are way oversized from what they actually should be. They should be drawn down much smaller, because if you think about it up here, where some of these cross sections are, I know where the floodplain map is here south, the floodway is actually on the side of a hill, and I've never seen water flow sideways on a hill. So that's just some indications of how off they are in places.
And how wide is this in floodplain?
Let me see. Right here at the loop. Well, from here to here at the loop, it is 1,162 feet.
And do they, I mean, is their building position such that they have to build it in it? They cannot move it sideways or somewhere that we don't have to deal with this?
Still not taking into consideration.
Possibly. I know they've been wanting to look at the northeast loop because that's one of our highest traffic counts.
No, I'm talking about the same property. I'm not talking about doing a different location.
Well, I believe
Can
there's
they move it on the same property a little right, left, or somewhere that they can do this without getting into the flood?
Well, with the three lots that they're looking at, I believe they already have they're needing at least 6 acres, I believe. And this lot is 6 acres. The little lot next to them, I want to say, is just about less than 2. Look up and see exactly what that is. Actually, it's 1.4 acres. There's 3 lots that will be in the final plat. Lot 1 is 1.4 acres. Lot 2, 6 acres. Lot 3 is 1.6 acres. And then the floodway, it actually appears on your, I'm not sure you have that on your file. Let me see if I've got that.
And one other thing that I want to clarify, we will not encounter the same situation as Ms. Karkoff did, that the neighbors built their homes higher and
No, sir,
every
not
time
here.
she would get flooded.
Not here, no, sir.
If I may, just a quick aside from our day-to-day experience, when FEMA redid these maps across Lamar County, Fannin County, those things, it has caused an enormous amount of difficulty for everyone. I'm speaking purely about residential homeowners at this point, but those that weren't in the floodplain now are being forced to have flood insurance, and so we're seeing a lot of this go back through with surveyors just to file the paperwork to get out of the difficulty that FEMA, though well-intentioned it may have been, has caused, because they were doing such a broad stroke nationwide. To just apply it to a specific case has been very difficult on a lot of people. So I understand that this is one of those things that,
Yeah, and after they did the map modification, we've helped numerous people
Yeah.
with these problems that were created.
Will they get flood insurance if they were in this area?
it depends on what their lender's going to require, and normally if that's the case, and I don't know anything
What we
about
were
the
seeing a lot,
financing,
Dr. Osmy, is anyone who had a loan through a bank, a lending institution, was required to get that until they could prove they were out. And we were helping people prove that they were out of the
Right.
floodplain.
Okay, and when they got out of it, that was fine.
Right, and most of them were doing an elevation certificate or clarifying what the floodplain maps actually had shown on there, and that's what we're helping people do. And at the time, I believe there was, what, an 18-month or 2-year extension given where they were doing it for
2-year
free.
extension, yeah, where
So
they
they
could-
weren't charging anybody during that time frame. They realized what was going on, and they were trying to make it easier for homeowners to
And
get what they needed.
We've seen this not only, we've seen it in Johnson Woods, we've seen it in Reno, so it's a pretty broad stroke thing.
It's prevalent everywhere. If you were adjacent to a floodplain, you were
Sean?
pretty much affected.
You're talking about the building, but if it's a Ford dealership, you have a considerable amount of cement with cars parked on it. What will that do if you're putting it in the middle of the floodplain and you're going to have buildup for them to be parking these cars? Are they going to have water running all under the cars, or what? How are they going to handle that?
We could actually build a parking lot in a floodplain. That is not an issue with building that in there.
Well, I'm concerned with it being there and displacing for surrounding.
Well, part of what they'll have to do is abide by state law as far as detention goes, detaining water, their pre versus
Now,
post.
see, I haven't heard
runoff.
anything about a retention pond.
And they are talking about doing a large detention pond for, I believe, the largest majority of this area, and that would be done in conjunction with the flood study. And they're talking about this, and we did talk about that a little bit at P&Z that night about doing a what they call a regional detention
I
pond.
recall that little
So they are
elbow
doing a
somewhere.
retention pond.
That is in the, yes, sir, that is in the plans,
Where was
to
it?
take care of what Ms. Lancaster just mentioned as far as adding additional runoff to the watershed.
But that's kind of up. That's kind of strange to me that little elbow retention is kind of southwest when you've got all of that below it.
Well, part of dealing with a regional detention pond is that you're diverting water
Ring
over a
divert.
much larger area. And, there's, I think in Metroplex, I know of larger cities who will build that, and people will pay to take part of that to account for their excess drainage or off-site water flow.
So there's been no talk of not trying to be compliant with codes that are in force and working through the process. I mean,
No,
that's there.
and actually at our last meeting with Mr. Don Wilson, Brandon Ludke from a developer who's helping the Ford dealership, and an engineer name of Adam Rose, they've all talked, and those three are actually going to work together to
Right.
solve put these puzzle pieces together as we move forward with FEMA
Okay.
and getting the letter of map revision approved.
Well, I think I'm sorry.
I'd feel much better if we had FEMA's approval earlier.
Sean, what does that do to the process if we go through FEMA first?
Slows it down
with their
significantly.
backlog?
Yeah.
Slows it down
I
significantly?
mean, they have 90, like I said, they have 90 days to respond to your first submittal, and that's just to say, hey, we got it, and then we're going to start looking at it. Usually what they do is they'll take it and send it to a consulting firm who does this for FEMA, and, consulting firms have to earn their keep, so they're always going to find something, whether it be approved first time or not. So you're looking at probably, I'd say, at least a 120-day delay if that process is chosen.
And one other question. That 120-day delay would not be there, otherwise it would, what I mean to say is they can start construction immediately, or what happens? Supposing we give an approval tonight,
If you give approval tonight, that will approve the final plat, so they will then have a buildable lot. The floodplain is still there, so if they borrow money, they're still going to have to go through what Matt mentioned, the lending institution, if they choose that route, and possibly have to get flood insurance. And we made them aware of that fact in going through this, but the only way to kind of get around that is to do your letter of map revision, which is the final document, which actually changes the floodplain map. So the map we just looked at earlier, FEMA would send us a change to that map. So it would actually show the lots that were taken out, and it would change the boundary of that floodplain. And what we're seeing here, it would significantly change that floodplain map and reduce this floodplain area, I'd say at least by probably 60%. It would reduce it down, if not more.
So what we're talking about tonight doesn't entirely make the decision, but it expedites the process to the extent it can with FEMA.
Correct.
Under the guidelines that are approved.
Right, through
Right.
their changes that they've just recently approved in the last few months.
So
Okay.
FEMA could come back and say, we're not going to let y'all build.
They probably would not say that. They would probably come back, because we have followed their process. They would probably come back and make some tweaks here or there. They're going to find something or tweak something here or there. But as what what
Even
the.
if we approve it tonight,
Right.
FEMA's still probably gonna find
And,
something.
and in that, at that point, what the next steps would be, if they do get a building permit, what the next step would be is after they build what we're gonna call their civil site work, get their grading done, then they would go back out, and they would survey that property. The floodplain engineer would take that into account, run his new models after they've done the new surveys to find out what the new cross sections are, put that in the program, run that again, prepare all the FEMA documents. Then they would send that into FEMA, and then they're going to have to wait that same time period we just talked about for their letter of map revision, which means anywhere in that time period, they have X amount of time to respond to this request to change the floodplain maps.
Okay. Does anyone have, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
No, go ahead, you were asking a question.
No, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, well, you've been made.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the final plat as presented.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
So please raise the hand so that we are clear on. Okay, so the motion is not carried, so take it back. Is there a second motion on this? Or you want to make that suggestion to take it back to FEMA first? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes,
Do you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
If I could interject?
Yeah, sure.
Because this is a plat, you need to make a motion to deny.
Okay.
And a motion to deny without prejudice, that allows them to reapply again.
Oh.
So without prejudice, otherwise they have to wait a whole year, and I don't think that's what you're after, you just want additional information. So if you'll deny without prejudice, they can reapply when the other stuff is taken care of.
Motion,
I got to be honest, I'm confused, and I'm sorry. I've bit my tongue about this about as much as I can. I'm confused that we don't have flood expertise, and our city administrator is saying that this is within the boundaries to follow protocol and to make it more
Mr. Franklin.
easy on a property owner. I guess I'm confused.
I apologize, but since you are not the winning party in this, it cannot be brought back by you.
I'm
So-
not bringing anything back. I'm
Okay,
making a
so-
statement.
Is your motion to send it to FEMA first? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second on this motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Could we have discussion on that, or?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So just to clarify, John's motion is just to deny it, period. Mr. Godwin suggested we make the motion to deny without prejudice. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I understand the motion.
Plats have to be specifically either approved or denied, because there's a period of 30 days. If you don't take an action, either positive or negative, then it happens automatically. So you specifically need to deny. Now, you can include and send it back to FEMA as part of that motion.
Okay.
But your motion needs to be to deny without prejudice and send it to FEMA or something like that. Because we don't want it to, for a technicality, for them to say, well, 30 days is up and you didn't deny it, so it's automatically approved.
Say that again, please.
Bottom line, you need to deny without prejudice and send it back to, and send it to FEMA first.
And what is denied with prejudice? What is denied?
Denied with prejudice means they have to wait a whole year before they can even apply again. I don't think you're wanting to do that.
Okay. You're the one who made.
My motion was to get FEMA's okay first,
Without prejudice.
period.
Okay, well, if it's not denied, then it happens automatically, is what I'm saying.
As submitted.
If you don't deny it, at the end of 30 days, it will automatically be approved without any action by the council.
The state law says that if the plat is not specifically denied within 30 days of application, then it's approved by operation of law.
So in other words, you can say simply denied, in which case it's denied.
Right.
Okay.
Now, the with prejudice and without prejudice, is that part of our subdivision ordinance, Sean? That you can't bring it back for a year, or is that?
Some period of time.
Yeah, or some period of time. I think saying without prejudice, denying without prejudice, you're trying to give them the right to bring it back sooner.
That's actually not in our ordinance. It's not written in there per se.
Okay.
What John's
So we
referring to
don't
may
need
be in
that.
state
So
law.
we don't, okay. You can just make the motion to deny,
I
basically.
make the motion to deny.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 5-2. All right.
Oh, because it wouldn't prove a point.
We now move on to the regular agenda.
Mayor?
I'm sorry.
We need to finish the consent agenda.
We did finish the consent.
Okay.
Oh, I think I took a motion on that, did I?
Missed
Do-
that.
Yeah, I think I missed it too.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda other than that.
I make a motion, we approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 12 is conduct a public hearing, discuss and act on resolution authorizing the submission of an application to the Texas Department of Agriculture for disaster relief. Mr. Godwin.
Very quickly, we're trying to get money to reimburse part of our cost for the ice storm cleanup. There's up to $350,000 available through the Texas Department of Agriculture. It's actual federal money that goes through those guys. In order to apply for that, we're required to have a public hearing, which is what we need to have now. And then the council needs to approve the resolution authorizing us to submit an application for funding.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open and ask for anyone wishing to speak in support or opposition of this item to please come forward, write your name and address for the record. If there is nobody wanting to speak in favor or against, the public hearing is now closed. Any discussion on this item? Anyone? No. I'll take a motion on this item.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution authorizing the submittal of the application for funding.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Item number 13, conduct a public hearing, discuss and act on an ordinance approving the site plan for V&K Properties LLC on Lot 2 and 3, Block 7, Spring Lake Edition, located in 300 block of North Collegiate Drive. Mr. Napier will explain this item. I do want to say there is a big map over here. If anybody is interested in it, that can be please taken out so that people can see it if anyone's interested in. You have the map?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Napier.
Yes, sir. Mayor Council, this tonight before you is a site plan approval. The property is currently zoned PDA, which is plan development. The little A stands for office retail space. What V&K Properties would like to do here is build a dental office, which is allowed in this zoning. But as part of the plan development district, what they have to do is submit a detailed site plan, which they have done. We have commented on the site plan, sent changes back to them, and they more or less agreed to make all the changes to the site plan. So what you have before you tonight is to approve the site plan with the changes that were recommended by staff. P&Z did approve this same item at their last meeting in May.
I declare the public hearing open and ask for anyone wishing to speak in support or in opposition of that item to please come forward, write your name and address down for the record. If there is nobody wanting to speak in favor or against, the public hearing is now closed. I need a motion on this item.
I make
Okay.
a motion, we approve the site plan.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Motion carries. Item number 14, receive presentation from Retail Coach and consider taking action on a professional service agreement to provide retail and analysis and recruitment in conjunction with the Lamar County Chamber of Commerce.
Mayor, Council, appreciate you having me here today. Aaron Farmer with the Retail Coach, Vice President of the Retail Coach. I feel like I've kind of gotten to know a lot of your citizens over the last several weeks. This is actually my third day in the market. I was here about half a day, and then we had a meeting with the Retail Committee about 2 weeks ago, and actually spent 2 days ahead of time in the market, really wanting to get a feel for what's happening here in Paris for retail development. Not a whole lot going on as far as new retailers, new restaurants coming in, and thinking about some ways to spur some of that new development. John, do I have just a little bit about the Retail Coach. We've been doing this for about 15 years. I personally have been with the Retail Coach now going on 8 years. Have worked in over 225 communities in the U.S. Let me say this, about 90 to 95% of those communities are in the state of Texas. And I learned this, I graduated from Texas A&M, and I learned that it's not all about what you know, but it's also about who you know. And very true in the retail real estate business. Retailers talk, developers talk. We're going to be heading out to a convention here next week, or actually towards the end of this week, called the International Council of Shopping Centers Convention. And I'm going to talk a little bit, kind of a little more about us, but really want to talk about the plan we have for Paris and what we've already started as far as that goes. Just a little bit of our background. Kelly Kofer is the president and CEO of our company. He founded this company, like I mentioned, 15 years ago, was with Hancock Fabrics. And if you're familiar with Hancock Fabrics, he did store rollouts throughout the state of Texas, is where they're going to locate their new stores back when they were extremely successful in the 80s and 90s. But started the Retail Coach to really help those small, medium-sized communities that need the help getting the word out about their community and doing the recruitment there. My background, I mentioned, graduated from Texas A&M University, also an MBA from Texas A&M Commerce, just down the road. But my background is really in the research part of it and really working with people. And working with communities, understand that it's all about communication, making sure everybody's in on it or up on it. If they're not, they're down on it. So, that's really where my background is. But a lot of success in working with FedEx, Kinko's, Sally Beauty Supply, Adidas, helping them decide where they're going to locate their stores. Is Paris a place for them to locate? I already mentioned this before, but we know Texas. We're seeing retailers, we're seeing restaurants move in Texas more than any other state. You hear about it all the time on the news. Retailers, restaurants want to be here. Let me mention this real quick. I spent a lot of time in the community, like I mentioned, the third day here, and I actually interviewed citizens. I went into Walmart, I walked into the coffee shop, I walked throughout downtown and said, what are the things that are missing here that you're leaving town for on a regular basis? And this is probably no surprise, but the number one response was casual, sit-down, national brand restaurants. And that was the first thing I noticed when driving around the loop, driving into town, is where are some of those national restaurants? And that's going to be one of your largest leakages. And when I say leakage, people leaving town to go eat at some of those things. Other top responses I got were clothing. Now you've got Belk and you've got some other clothing options, but what I really heard was those high school age kids, middle school age kids, clothing for them. And then the last response I got was entertainment. Not a whole lot of entertainment choices here. So that's what our company does, is actually goes out and recruits those on behalf of communities. We've had a lot of success over the last 15 years, but I want to just share a few things with you really quick. Are you familiar with Wiley? Just northeast of Dallas, Wiley, Texas. Mm-hmm. If you're familiar with that Target shopping center that's there, very large shopping center on McCurry right there. We're successful at recruiting a Target, also a Kohl's, and a number of different retailers as well to go along with those. One big success that we've had a lot of success in recently is Bastrop. And how many of you are familiar with Bastrop outside of Austin? Bastrop is a community I compare to Paris in a lot of ways, as far as where you're located, how far you are to the closest other retail. We've actually been successful at recruiting 13 retailers and restaurants just in the last 2 years. We got Academy Sports and Outdoors that just signed up. And let me tell you this, Bastrop's a town of 6,500. It's all about showing them that the population is here, that they can support a store here. Chick-fil-A is another one we're successful at recruiting. Dunkin' Donuts, a movie theater, Lost Pines, 8. So we have success. I just wanted to share a few of these. These are all successes we've had just in the last year to year and a half. So I want to make you aware of those. Last slide or two on the Retail Coach. This is coming from Dave in Bastrop. For years, I researched firms to help me with retail development, and the Retail Coach continued to surface as the best choice provider. Over and over again, I heard about service after the sale. And that's key here, is not just recruiting retailers, but making sure, like I said, it's communicated throughout the entire community. This is what we're doing. We met with the retail committee a couple of weeks ago, and the retail committee was especially excited about working with the local businesses, existing businesses in town, explaining to them how to use this information, not just looking to bring in retailers and restaurants, new ones, but also helping those existing, whether it's through expansion, really helping those mom and pops. So put together, like I said, wanted to spend a couple of days in the market before we put together a plan for you. But up here on your screen is what we have put together is what we call our Retail 360 process. And like I said, uniquely tailored for Paris. An on-the-ground approach is what's needed here. Doing some research back at our office, not all of your sites that are for sale are on the web. So if I'm a developer, I'm a restaurant, I'm somebody looking to open a store here, I can't find all of the sites available. So what our team does is we come in and we help pinpoint specific retailers or specific retail sites that could be successful, really what we call a land use analysis. But we have a kickoff meeting. We identify who the team is or the committee is for executing this, really work closely with your local businesses, retailers and restaurants, but also talk to those brokers. If we're going to go out there and pitch to somebody like Target that you need to open a store here. Target's opening their new Target Express store. I don't know if you've heard about that, but in the past we'd been told that Target would not consider coming to somewhere like this. But now that they have a Target Express store, you kind of fit their mold, what they're looking for. So meeting with brokers, if we're going to go out, like I said, and pitch to a retailer, we've got to know what's happening at the corner of your major intersections. We've got to know what land's available. So a very, very on-the-ground approach communicating this message. You're getting people from outside of the area. I did a lot of research on what's been done in, let's say, the last 5 to 10 years as far as retail recruitment goes. I found some retail trade areas where people that were drawn for Paris, where they were coming from, and I don't think it told the whole story. You've got people coming from large distances to shop and eat here because you're their closest retail center. So you've got your trade areas extending out into Oklahoma a good ways. Did a lot of research, went and talked to some of the managers at these stores. That's going to be the key of this process, is really understanding how that trade area fits. But we've got to know Paris, like I said, a road-by-road analysis. We've got to know your retailers. We've got to know your restaurants. But we've got to know what development opportunities are available, but also redevelopment opportunities. I spent a lot of time in downtown today, looking around at sites that maybe aren't serving their highest and best use or vacant. We don't just look at new development out on the freeway or out on the loop. We look at development in downtowns as well. And it's key to make sure you have a thriving downtown that has retail, entertainment, restaurant options, those sort of things. Because let me tell you this, when I was working as a site selector, the first place we would go is to the downtown. To us, that was kind of the heartbeat of the community, the pride of the community. So we need to make sure that happens. So a downtown focus as well as new development and also redevelopment. Really have already gone in and kind of identified what we call submarkets. And it's a little bit hard to see on this map, but you'll see 4 different submarkets, and this is just a few of them. You've got some additional submarkets. Well, we've got to pay attention to what's happening east on the loop, what I call more of your regional submarket, where you've got Walmart, where you've got Belk, where you had Hastings that moved out. That area right there has to have its own analysis, its own list of retailer and restaurants that are going to locate there. What I've seen in the past is really a kind of a shotgun approach to retail recruitment. Come to Paris. Paris is where it needs to happen. In order to be successful, you have to take retailers' specific submarkets and take them specific sites. So the downtown needs to have its own analysis done and its own list of retailers and restaurants to recruit. Very, very targeted. And that needs to be the phrase, I think, going forward is, if we're going to be out there recruiting retailers and restaurants, make sure it's a targeted approach. Mentioned this already, if you'll flip past that slide for me, John. As part of our retail trade area determination, we do what's called a license plate analysis, where we actually are able to scan license plates that are, let's say, shopping at Walmart. Your Walmart, for example, has one of the biggest draws in terms of service areas in the state of Texas. You're pulling people from, like I said, into Oklahoma, in north, south, east, west. Our license plate analysis, we pioneered this several years ago. We're able to actually tell factually where people are coming from to shop. In the past, we had to rely on retailers saying, we think they're coming from this area. Well, now we can actually scan a license plate and find out exactly where they're coming from. So that needs to be a huge part of this process. Obviously, important to keep up-to-date demographics in front of retailers, in front of restaurants. A lot of the information I have seen has been old on Paris. I pulled a couple of marketing pieces. 2010 data or census data. If I'm a retailer or restaurant, I have to have 2014 data. If you're operating on 2010, way behind the curve, and you're competing, Paris is competing not just with the people in Northeast Texas, okay, or North Texas. You're competing with cities throughout the state of Texas. What happens is, let's say it's Target Express. They say, we're going to open 10 stores in the state of Texas. Well, you're not just competing with the areas around here. You're competing with those areas. You're competing with Bastrop. You're competing with McAllen down in the valleys because they're only going to open 10 stores here. So you've got to make sure that Paris is at the top of the list. That's what our company does. As part of that demographic analysis, we take it to the next level. How many of you, and I don't have too many slides left, but how many of y'all are familiar with the psychographics? Anybody ever heard that term before? Psychographics? Okay. Best way I've ever heard it described is demographics on steroids. So it takes, look at me at my age and my income. Okay, those are demographics. What psychographics does is it looks at me and it says, I buy Kraft macaroni and cheese twice a month at Kroger. Okay, I watch Netflix. I watch this specific movie on Netflix. I buy these items. Psychographic analysis is very, very useful by your existing businesses, but also convincing national retailers, national restaurants to get here. A psychographic analysis needed to be ran about 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, so that these retailers could really understand this market. So very, very key to have that information. We go out and we run what's called an opportunity analysis. You might have heard it referred to as a leakage analysis. How much money is leaving the community? And let me say this right now. You're never going to be able to capture all of that money that's leaving this community, okay, all of the retail dollars. But if we can reduce that by 10 to 20% over the next 12 months, that's an additional $30 to $40 million being spent here in the community. So very, very key. But we run a leakage analysis, really identify what opportunities exist here. Good example is in this community up on the screen was a shoe store. We determined there was $1 million in leakage in shoes. So based off of that psychographic analysis, where people shopped in this trade area, we targeted these 5 retailers: Shoe Show, Payless, Shoe Department. We're actually successful at recruiting Shoe Show to this community. So that is how a leakage analysis is used. It is key. If you want retailers, you want restaurants in your community, that has to be something that is given to these retailers quickly and on a regular basis. Mentioned this already, but I wanted you to see this graph. Now this is retailer growth in 2014. 41,000 new retailers, new units over the next year. The key is, look at that green area. 42% is going to be restaurants. You can see it just on my drive in today. You can see restaurants coming up out of the ground. That's key here. Number one request I got from your citizens was additional restaurant, casual national brand restaurants: Red Lobster, Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse. I'm surprised some of those are not already in this market. That graph right there, it works very well for what you're trying to do. Land use analysis, I mentioned this before, but we've got to understand what sites are available. This could be new development, could be redevelopment, could be a downtown site, but if we're going to go out there and pitch these sites to retailers and restaurants, we do the analysis, who should be there, and we take specific sites. So if we're going to go after Target Express, and we know that they're looking to do a 20 to 30,000 square foot store, what we need to do is we need to have 3 to 5 sites available to them. Really doing the work of the site selector for them, getting that information to them as quick as possible. Retailer developer matching and recruitment. I already talked about working with the existing businesses, had a chance to talk to the chamber director about being able to hold seminars, explaining how to use this information to your businesses, but also retailer developer matching and recruitment. What I've seen in the past is, like I said, just a shotgun approach, going after every retailer, every restaurant possible. What we do is we take a very, very targeted approach to specific retailers, specific restaurants, and you'll notice it says developers. If you'll notice throughout the state of Texas, most of what's happening is developer-driven, retailer-wise. So if we can marry retailers with developers, put them together, speed up the process, that'll happen. What's missing in this area is a mixed-use type development. You've got some power centers, but you don't really have that mixed use that has a little bit of everything. So finding the developer to come do that is key. I mentioned that developer in Bastrop that we've had so much success with in getting these retailers and restaurants in. Actually made a call to him this afternoon, and he's already agreed to come out and take a look at Paris. He was honest with me and saying, look, I've heard of Paris before, but I honestly don't know in the state where Paris is. So that's going to be not necessarily a challenge, but that's going to be something we're going to have to get over and get interested. So wanted to mention that. But we reach out. We're not providing you developers and retailers. We're reaching out to these retailers, restaurants, developers. We're going to get a yes or no answer. If they say, hey, maybe, we're obviously going to take them specific sites. But what we do specifically is we put together a portal for you so that you can access that portal on a daily basis to see who's recruited, who was reached out to today, who was reached out to last week. So very, very, like I said, in on it or up on it, you're down on, or you're down on it. So making sure communication is there. We put together marketing materials for you. We work all over the state of Texas, like I mentioned. Here's just a quick example of a marketing piece, very high level marketing pieces, but very precise in what a retailer developer is looking for. A retail specific website. That's one of the things that I noticed was hard to find was information on retail. Information on the demographics, those sort of things. So I actually proposed us just putting together for you a retail specific website and doing that. ICSC, International Council of Shopping Centers. It's coming up at the end of this week actually. It's called Recon. It's the largest retail real estate convention. Paris, my honest opinion, Paris needs to be out there. Not this time, obviously, it's only a week away, but there's a conference coming up in Dallas in November. You need to be at that conference. You need to be in Vegas when it comes around next year. Your competing communities are there, who you're competing with is there, but you get to be a partner of ours at that. We have a booth you get to use. We set up the meetings for you. So you're not out there just trying to solicit business, trying to get retailers there. We actually set those meetings up. We are doing this for 6 communities at this upcoming ICSC conference. Each of those communities has a minimum of 7 meetings set up. So that's what we do for you. Like I said, I don't know if y'all are an ICSC member or not. Y'all are a member. You're already a member, so that's something you'll need to take advantage of. And we actually, if we get a chance to work with you here pretty quickly, we actually already have some sites that we're planning to take out there on your behalf. And I personally have 56 meetings over a 3-day period out there. So Paris will get in front of some of these retailers, some of these restaurants. Last slide, recruiting retail coaching. We stick with you throughout this process. We're talking about a 12-month engagement period here, but we stick with you to make sure you're successful. Demographic updates, doing that entire 12-month process, we are recruiting retailers and restaurants. It's not something that happens 1 month or quarterly. It's something that happens on a daily basis. Our team is here and ready. And one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning is who the project team will be. We have 10 people at our company, 10 people at the Retail Coach that we really feel like we have the best staff out there for recruiting retailers and restaurants. But Kelly Kofer, who's up on the screen, and myself are going to be the project leaders. So we will be the 2-point people of this project, and we really feel like we can have some success here. I wouldn't have spent 2.5, 3 days in the market if we didn't think we could be successful. I feel like I already know Paris very well, and one of the words that comes to mind is underserved. And I think if we were to ask every citizen in this town, you're underserved when it comes to retailers and restaurants, and we can help get you in front of some of those.
Thank you very much. That was a very good presentation. I have a whole bunch of questions for you.
Great.
The first question that I have for you is, what is the closest community to Paris that you have that you're serving?
That we're currently serving would probably be Melissa, small town just north of Dallas on 75.
Okay.
Not a competing community, but that's probably the closest that we're currently serving.
Okay. The next question that I have is, how do you compare yourself to retail attractions?
I'm familiar with retail attractions, and I never want to say anything bad against my competitor, but this is...
No, but we are, supposing we were to take a choice between you and them, describe to me why should we select you over them?
Okay. Our experience level, much more experienced in the state of Texas. That is key. Our process that we put into place is very much transparent, that we're working with the city council. We're working with the economic development or retail committee. Everybody knows what's happening at every time, and we have a targeted approach to do that. Familiar with the company, we've come behind them a number of times to do a project like this, and really just feel like we take it to the next level as far as recruiting, and our contacts are second to none as far as that goes in the retail industry.
So you're saying you will have better contacts and better access to retailers than they do?
Undeniably.
Okay.
Yes.
And since you're similar kind of businesses, having contacts is one thing, but being successful is another thing.
Sure.
Do you think you have been more successful than they have been in bringing retail businesses to town?
Without a doubt.
Okay. The next question that I have is, I understand that it's important to analyze and study, and the leakage analysis that you talked about seems like a very good idea. But I want to know, what is the advantage of knowing things that we already do, such as you were talking about having seen the tags on cars at Walmart. You saw it, we see it all the time. Do you not think that analyzing the same thing over and over and knowing where they're coming from just adds to the charge to the city? Or, I mean, explain to me, why is it of any major benefit? We already see all these things already there.
Sure.
And it's not, you're not promoting that outside into their towns. You're
Sure.
just analyzing that where they came from. How does it help us? Explain that to me.
Well, and I don't think you've had an actual license plate analysis done, but anybody can go out in this parking lot and look at the license plate, but it doesn't tell you specifically where they're coming from. You know, you might be able to get a county. I don't even think you get a county on a license plate, but what we do is our license plate analysis ties it to a specific household, so a specific address. So anybody can go sit in the Walmart parking lot and look and see that you've got people coming from Oklahoma. Okay, you see the Oklahoma plates there. What our analysis does is it takes it to a household level, so their specific address. So that's where the difference is.
No, but how does it benefit? I mean, is it?
So if I'm a retailer and
Yeah.
I'm a restaurant, I've got to know where my customers are coming from. So just having a kind of an idea of where that retailer is coming from, I think they're coming from this part of Oklahoma, but I don't know without a shadow of a doubt. The license plate analysis removes any doubt.
Okay.
You know
Does
without
that
a shadow
not come
of a
under
doubt.
the leakage analysis?
What's that?
It doesn't come under the leakage analysis?
It does not.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right. Now,
Those tools, the license plate analysis and the leakage analysis, have to be used simultaneously. You can't just use one or the other. You've got to be able to show both of those to a retailer and a restaurant to convince them to come.
also, you've had 3 days, so it may not be a fair question to ask, but have you seen the retail analysis that has been done? And Chamber of Commerce has a copy of that. Have you?
We were actually provided that.
Okay.
And actually, in me putting together my presentation was based off of analyzing what had been done before and what needed to be done going forward.
And so the charge to the city would not be on things which have already been done in that analysis. Is that correct?
Correct. What I presented here, what's in our proposal, is what needs to be done if you want to be successful in recruiting retailers going forward.
Okay. The other question that I have is, you have a 1-year contract with the city, and the contract is renewable, I take it, based
Correct.
on what you bring to the city?
It is, correct. We talked about that in our retail committee, and what we do is we come in at about half the price for additional years. We've already done a lot of the analysis. You don't need to update everything, but we come in at half the price. So if we were to extend it an additional year, that comes out to $14,900 or $15,000.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The next question is, you're obviously very experienced in retail, etc. Red Lobster and all these restaurants that you talked about, and you said that they should be here, they require 150,000 population, not people who come into town, but who are residing in town. Not capture areas, but they require that specific number to be present in town.
Actually, no.
Okay, but
Actually, if you look at most of those retailers and restaurants, they require about 50,000 in the trade area. From a retail recruitment standpoint, I'm just from my experience, you forget about city limits boundaries. You forget about town boundaries. If I'm a retailer, if I'm Red Lobster, just as an example to say coming into this town, forget about city limits. We're looking at that trade area. So 150,000 in the city is a different thing. They need to know what that trade area population is, and that's what that license plate analysis does, is confirms that factually for them.
okay. And you do not think, and just out of taking the Red Lobster example, you do not think that they have any issues because Sherman is close by and it has a Red Lobster already there?
Sure. Well, store spacing is an issue. If we're going to locate a store here in Paris, are we going to be successful? Is it going to cannibalize our additional sales? What we have to do, and I think what bringing us on is our challenge is going to be to convince them that, look, if you open a store out here in Paris, you're going to be successful. And we actually, many times, will predict sales for retailers and restaurants. And I mentioned this before, but it's not about what you know. It's many times about who you know.
Okay.
And if you've helped them locate successful stores time after time after time, they're going to listen to you. But yeah, that'll be a challenge. But how long does it take to get to Sherman from here? An hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of 45 minutes.
Hour? Okay, so 45 minutes. That's,
45 minutes.
well, if you drive really fast.
All right, an hour.
Not in a whole car, taking out.
All right.
You were that red car speeding by me, right?
Can you go to your second slide for a second?
Yes,
please?
sir.
And keep going further, right there.
Yes.
Yeah. You were talking about the town right here, which is in the middle. Where is the name?
Bastrop?
Yeah. You got Chick-fil-A there?
Correct.
How big is that town?
6,500.
Okay, all right. And all of these names that you've written down, you're personally responsible for getting all of those businesses to town?
Correct.
Okay, I'm satisfied, thank you. Mr. Wright?
Yeah, you talk about leakage, are you talking about leakage from the city or from the trade areas?
really talking about, so what we do is we look at the trade area. Okay, so let's say your trade area is 3 times the population of Paris. We look at what the retail potential is in that retail trade area. So what people are spending, we compare that to what's actually happening in the city. So what's left over is a leakage leaving the community. So we look at the trade area to determine that, and that's key. If we're going to go out there and recruit retailers and restaurants, we've got to really forget about the city. Okay, we've got to forget about city limits boundaries. We've got to focus on that trade area and what the leakage is coming out of that. So our focus is, and I think what's hurt you in the past is being a little bit too conservative as far as your trade area goes. Some of the maps I told you about I saw in the retail report that was done were very limiting as far as how north your trade area went, how east, how west, and how south. So I think it's key that we come in, re-identify that trade area, redraw that trade area, really take advantage of what the retail potential is in that entire trade area.
You think with really good recruiting that we could enlarge that trade area?
Absolutely. If we're successful at recruiting some kind of larger development, that trade area is going to expand. You know, right now you're cut off about halfway to Sherman. Okay, there's about a halfway point that people decide, are we going to go to Paris or are we going to go to Sherman? And it's really closer to, that line is closer to, you know, people are driving to Sherman more often than coming here to buy and eat things. So if we're successful at recruiting one of these restaurants, you know, 2 of these restaurants, it's going to increase that trade area. Maybe instead of going to Sherman, they'll come to Paris this time and really feel like we can be successful. That's the overall goal, is getting retail sales, but expanding that trade area is the key to this whole thing.
Yeah, what's the basis of your estimation of what our leakage is?
As far as the 30 to 40 million I made?
Yes.
I looked at what your retail sales were over the last 12 months, and I looked at about a 10 to 20% figure on that.
Did you ever break that down as to population, how much per
person?
Yes.
I did
For
not.
family?
I did not, but that's part of what we do. So that when we go to a restaurant or a retailer, we can say, you know, this family right here is spending $16,000 on retail every year. So that's part of our further analysis. I didn't take it that far.
You ever try to identify discretionary spending?
Oh, that's part of this process. That retail website we're putting together, we'll actually have some mapping that comes with that, where we'll actually be able to map every household by their discretionary spending. So that if we're meeting with a retailer developer at that ICSC conference or wherever it might be, we'll be able to pull up on that map anywhere in Paris and show them what the discretionary spending is of each household or really each area. So that's a huge part of this process, has to be.
I have no more questions.
Ms. Drake?
The only question I have is, did you say that y'all will also look at trying to keep people that we already have here, finding out why they're leaving, why they're closing their doors? Is that part of what y'all do?
Yes, ma'am, it is. And I think that was a particular interest to the Chamber Retail
Right.
Committee, was how can we help those retailers, those restaurants that maybe have closed up or left? You know, Hastings, for example, is one that I think about where you have a vacancy. That sounds like something's happening there. But finding out why are they leaving, you know,
Right.
that's kind of an easy one. Those types of movie rental places, books, those are kind of going
But
away.
we've had a lot of, you know, not a lot, but we've had several businesses close this last year, and it would be interesting to know why and what we could have done as a city to have kept them here.
In order for us to do a thorough analysis, we've got to know why.
Right.
Because if it's something that we can fix or something that Paris can fix to why they're leaving, we got to work to fix that. So that's a huge part of this process. It has to be. It has to be.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Jenkins?
I have no questions right now. I think the mayor answered most of my questions, but I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Frierson?
I'm kind of like Aaron. It's a nice presentation. A lot of the information we have heard before, but good to see how you guys actually go about your day-to-day process. So thank you.
Ms. Lancaster?
We're sort of concerned, well, we are very concerned about some of the businesses we've heard. It's a possibility we might lose Radio Shack, or we might be in danger of losing Sears. Very, very disconcerting to me. That
Sure.
what can we do to stop that from happening?
Well, honestly, the first thing that needs to happen is when you bring us on board, is they're some of the first that we go talk to, and that needs to happen immediately.
Yes.
That needs to be our first meeting, is meeting with those that we've heard, whether it's a rumor or something that we've heard.
Right.
We need to meet with them immediately. So within 2 weeks, we would be meeting with those types, finding out why they're leaving. Like I mentioned before, we've got to figure out what the issue is. Is it something that can be fixed, and go from there? So that would be, we're planning, if we get a chance to move forward here, we're planning on being in the market within the next 2 weeks, kicking this project off after this ICSC conference.
Dr. Grossnickel?
You mentioned the Target Express concept.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that, you said it was about 30,000 square feet?
Yes, sir.
How big is a standard Target versus, say, a super Target?
Okay, well, so what they've done is they've gone away from super Targets. Everything is going to be called either a Target or a Target Express. So your typical Target, or what was previously a super Target, really was anywhere from 60 to 100,000 square feet, basically that. These smaller stores that they're coming in with, they've cut them in half, and that bodes very well for communities like yours that maybe in the past could not support, or we were told could not support a Target. Now you could. Walmart's doing the same thing, Walmart Express. You might have heard of that. I go to church actually with a pharmacist at Walmart, and they have plans to open 15 of those new Walmart Expresses within the year here in Texas.
Well, we used to have, as you know, we had a Kmart here, and Kmart nationwide closed down a lot of stores.
Yes,
So
sir.
it wasn't just Paris, but
Yeah.
we got axed. But I do think Walmart definitely could use some competition here and some upgrading of their
I
store.
agree. I agree.
Do you know of any success stories here, like in terms of our nationwide chains? Like I've been told that the Chili's here does phenomenally well.
They do good.
I heard the same thing.
I don't know how true that is, but if it is, that's a good thing you could pitch to people.
I've already heard that about 6 or 7 times, to be honest with you, the Chili's thing. So, it probably is something to that. But one of the first things we would do is go talk to them, really find out what's happening there. You'll learn that communication is key in this entire process, and understanding those things. But anytime we can go to a retailer and say, look, you've got the #1 Chili's based on this size trade area in the state of Texas or in the nation, that's going to pique somebody's interest. It does not surprise me for Chili's to be doing extremely well, because of that type of restaurant, there's not many of them here. As far as casual sit down and go like that. So to me, that just shows that some of these other sit down casual restaurants could be successful here. But that's one of the first places we would go, just along with talking with the retailers that we've heard could be moving, those sort of things, or could be closing down.
I'm impressed with your connections, and I believe that your firm would be a good fit with us and could do us a lot of good. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Dr. Grossnickel's been after getting Target for a long time.
Well, and we work with a number of retailers, or a number of communities, and all about the same size here, and that's the #1 response we get. When I talk to the retailer, when I talk to the citizens, I had a couple of Targets come up there, and really having them open up these smaller stores is really going to benefit towns the size of yours.
I have 2 more questions.
Yes, sir.
And then I'll leave you alone. First question is that out of the businesses that you have shown us open in different towns,
Sure.
do you have any kind of analysis on your performance, that how many open, but how many of them closed?
I don't, but I will tell you,
Just out of,
with confidence, because we do so much analysis and improving up these markets, it would be a very, very, very small percent that have closed, just because we do so much analysis to prove a market can support them.
Okay.
I can't think of any, honestly.
Okay. And the last question that I have is, if we were to sign up with you today, why can't we be present in this next convention thing?
Well, it starts on Saturday. We'd love to have you. You could be part of our booth.
Yeah, it is between now and Saturday is 3-4 days.
Well, having spent 3 days in the market here.
So you're perfect at it, so why not?
No, not perfect at it, but if you go with us today, we'll be representing you out there. I've already kind of got a prototype for a marketing piece to take out there, and I know of a number of sites. I know of a shopping center that needs some redevelopment, needs some tenants to come into it immediately, so we could have those immediately. But really, I think your focus needs to be the November ICSC conference. It's at the Dallas Convention Center, first week in November, like November 7th or 8th. That needs to be where you are at. We will have meetings set up for you there. Since we're getting such an early start, I would honestly think we could have 10 to 15 quality meetings for you at that conference.
Okay. Mr. Godwin, have you worked with them in Fairview?
I have not directly. We did most of our work in-house, but I'm very familiar with the company, have been for several years, and recommend them very highly.
Okay. All right, have we exhausted everybody? Yes, okay. I want to take a motion on this. This is a motion to approve or not,
Yes,
right?
sir.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I'm sorry.
You want?
Well, no, I just had a question.
Yeah, go ahead. ask.
What's the contract fee?
Oh,
$29,995. Sounds like a retail price.
Just under that 30,000 mark, then, right? That's the way you sell stuff. Just get it
That's what
under
we
the-
budgeted.
$29,995.
make you buy a car that way. Okay, thank you.
any other questions? Okay, who seconded it?
Lou.
Ms. Lancaster, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Very nice presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I think it was very instructive. I think it was probably one of the best retail presentations that we have seen, at least. And we hope that you're successful, and anything we can do to help out.
Let me say this. Like I mentioned, we'll be working to set up our first official trip, our team coming in, and we're going to have what we call stakeholder meetings and working with the committees, and we want to invite y'all to that. So I'll get with John and the committee on getting that set up. But we're excited about working with you. And
The only one request is please don't spend too much money on just studying. We want to see some results.
that's, yeah.
I mean, I understand you need to study, but
Yes, sir. Understood. Will do.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it.
All right, moving right along. Consider an act on resolution approving a focal funding agreement with TxDOT for West Paris Trail Project. Mr. Godwin, are we going to make it short?
Yes, sir, very short. This map shows the trail. This was a grant application that was submitted last year and was approved by TxDOT. In order to proceed, we are required to have a local project advance funding agreement in place. And in order to do that, the council needs to approve a resolution doing that. That commits us this year to spending about $2,361. That's our share of the state's administration cost. Actual construction will not be until 2015 or maybe even into 2016. So we need to approve the project funding agreement with TxDOT for this trail.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Item number 16, consider an act on am I on 16? Yeah. On an agreement with Hayter Engineering to provide engineering services required to complete the West Texas Grant Project.
This is the same project. In addition to the LaPafa, we also need to hire an engineer to begin the process. We've constructed this so that there would be multiple notices to proceed. The only work that needs to be done this year is the environmental, and that's going to be about $5,500. Again, the rest of the money will be spent in 2015, 2016 when construction actually occurs.
And I've already asked you, since the project was small, it didn't need to be bidded.
That's correct. And the reason we're using Hayter specifically is that they're the ones that put together the grant application for us, so they're most familiar with the project.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Item number 17, consider and approve future events of City Council pursuant to Resolution 2004-081. Anything?
I just wanted to say real quickly, Connie Fitzgerald, has been bringing food to the council once a month for at least the 2 years I've been here. And this is her last night.
Oh.
And I just wanted to thank her for feeding us for the last 2 years. Thank you very much. And it's Community Christian Fellowship Church. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, before we conclude, I have a book for all, I think I gave one to Dr. Grossnickel, if we can just pass it down. I have a book for all the council members. It's interesting reading. Everyone got it?
Oh,
Here, I got one.
You've already got one.
You have
That's
it?
right. Okay.
One for you, and you. It's a nice book, actually.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
What frame? When you get a new camera. All right, with that, we come to the closure of this meeting, so,
So moved.
all right, all in favor? All right, thank you, everyone.